NRL Fantasy with the casual athlete, Longy, Beers, and a couple of special guests today. We've got that dog in us. Welcome, everyone.
Woof, woof, baby.
A couple of dogs. Biz, you got to introduce yours. Everyone's seen a mare before, but tell us about your dog.
I've got Mocha, the little Australian shepherd over here. She's very naughty. She usually, if you hear a bell or a bark when I'm podcasting, usually it's this little girl here. She's trying to get away from me. She doesn't look very happy. Anyway, she's got more heart than the dogs last week, eh?
Oh, yeah, mate. The dogs fell off. And I bought Lockie Galvin too, so I'm not happy
so did
at
I.
all. But
So
Maya's
did
much
I.
more relaxed on camera. She knows what she's about.
She
She's
looks
ready
natural, man.
drop a few lines.
You've been teaching her how to podcast. Come on, Mox.
Yeah, she's curious. Yeah. You just got to hide the treats on the microphone. That's the key there. But, mate, look, how'd you go last week? You still on the rise?
Yeah, mate. I think we had a very similar score last week. I think I did 925 and wasn't the best with Lockie Galvin there. I'll put Mox down now. She's getting annoyed. 920 is a decent score. I had some good guys there, but obviously Lockie Galvin ending the round with a 20 wasn't great. But hey, it was either him or I kept Latu Fainu for a 3. It wouldn't have been any better. So can't complain. This week is a good one. Obviously, we've got some key injuries this week, Longy, but I've still got trades and I've got some depth. So I reckon I'm going to be able to make some ground on a couple of these coaches who are really scrambling this week.
There's a lot of coaches with 0 or 1 trade left. And yeah, those ones 0 in particular. Let's chase them. I went about 929. So I cracked back into the top 1,000 this week,
Lovely.
Which is great. It was about 3,000 5 or 6 weeks ago. So we're on the rise here. And look, we've obviously lost Herbie Farmworth. Everyone's big question is, who do you play at center? Now, buy of the week and part of the week this week are both centers. And we're going to start with that buy of the week. Bo Firma here, and this one's an interesting one because Bo was a hot buy a few weeks back. He sort of dropped a bit of price. He had that disappointment with that 29 against the Tigers. But let me read out the fixtures here for Bo Firma for you. So next 5 games, he has the Rabbitohs, heavily under strength. He's got the Sharks, who they're a bit hit and miss. The Warriors, again, a bit hit and miss right now. Dolphins, without Herbie Farmworth, I think they're going to struggle. And then the Tigers to finish things off. So good run of fixtures here for Bo Firma, 637K. He's really not much more expensive than the other options, and I think he just stands out as that best option at center.
Yeah, definitely. I have Bo, and the 54 odd last week, and could have scored a try in the first couple of minutes. Dropped the ball over the line. Could have had a massive score against Penrith, who are on a hot run here. And Titans are on the move. Like they won a game, and then they almost knocked off Penrith. Arguably should have knocked off Penrith.
Yeah.
So it's I think the 2 best centers for the year are now gone. Herbie's done. Lucas is done. So who you're next to? It's probably Kiraz and Fermor, who are the 2 best available at that spot.
Sorry,
and look,
just interrupt you, man. The 3 best. Sean Russell is down as well. So.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna interrupt me and say Pierre Cora was dual position or something.
Points allows back this week at 300K. So
okay, well, I'm sure he's the pot of the week. So with Bo, he's probably the most stable center. I mean, the thing is, Kiraz is unknown really at fullback. Not a lot of history to go by. Average score last week with a try, and worryingly, it was a bit of a swap in defense and attack with Critter there. So not getting the full span of what the potential for a fullback is. So I think Bo is probably the safest center to run home. He is good for a 50, 55 most weeks, but we've seen the upside as well, right? Like a 100+ score this year already. And you laid out the fixtures. There's a chance with the Titans on the way up that he can maybe jag a couple of tries. So yeah, I think it's an easy one for Herbie owners to trade to, and I think a very well deserved buy of the week.
It's crazy too. It frees up over 200K, which is just immense there.
Wow! How crazy was Herbie going as a? Can we just talk about for 1 second? How crazy was Herbie as a pure center in fantasy?
Yeah.
Unprecedented.
45 in 18 minutes in that last game. And again, I just want to shout out the 7% of top coaches who captained him. You nailed it. You got unlucky. That's
100%.
Such bad luck. Yeah, I didn't captain him, but I was rooting for him anyway because there's another 7% who don't have him. So I was keen for him to go 100+ just to stuff them off. But
yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people bought Herbie last week too. He was, I think he was the 7th
Yeah,
most bought player.
yeah,
So one of those people is cursed. And also shout out to the Keg who captained Jerem Hughes last week. He's captained Herbie this week. So Keg maybe just captain some guys who aren't on my side. Now,
yeah.
rolling through this list, man. Look, both firm are safe option there. We'll talk about pod. Gagai is in the pod section. There's a couple of other centers as well. But next up here is Payne Haas. And obviously, Payne Haas is Payne Haas, right? But the big thing I wanted to highlight here was he's back from his infection. I'm hoping the infection doesn't have lingering symptoms. I'm hoping we're done with all these phantom injuries now for him, and I'm hoping he's good to go. The big thing, though, is Xavier Wilson's out for a bit of a period now. So you look at that Broncos forward pack and you go, all right, in the middle forward rotation, you have Payne Haas and Xavier Wilson. Xavier was playing fantastic footy. He was eating up some of those Haas minutes. Then you have the other side of the middle forward rotation, which is Pat Carrigan, Kobe Hetherington, and Corey Jensen. Now, those guys are more in that sort of work rate mold. So I think they play together in terms of minutes exchange. And I think without Xavier Wilson, the Broncos, especially against the Storm this week, are going to need Payne Haas to be impactful and play bigger minutes. So if you want a pod captain playing Thursday, I know it's a bit cursed. If you want a pod captain on Thursday, Payne Haas is a cracker of an option this week, and he's going to be very low captained.
Yeah, I don't mind it one bit. And look, I think the pod captaincy is a great shout because look, I looked at my team last week and it's very hard to make ranks because I was looking at my team and in my 17, most of the players were 70, 80% owned by the top 5,000. So if you're trying to move up ranks at the top, it's just not useful. So another way to generate a pod is through your captaincy. And obviously, Cleary is going to be popular this week. May on a buy. So there's an opportunity to look at a few pod captions. Haas, we've seen what he can do. He'll be he's I don't know if it's right to say he's like 1 week rested. I mean, he was clearly not resting that well with an infection, but he'll be raring to go. And Broncos have been so actually the last couple of weeks after that hot run, so they need him back. The one thing I will say is, look, it saddens me to say that every single good fantasy player is going down, and not to. I've said this now. I
Oh,
know I haven't cursed it because I've said he's. I'm going to say it right here that trajectory wise, especially the mids, they're going down like flies. But because I've said that, Haas is going to be healthy all year round, and he's going to score 100 this week, guaranteed.
you've
No,
blessed him.
okay,
You've blessed
yeah,
him.
but look, I think
Yeah.
we don't have much to say. Everyone knows the statistical
Yeah.
profile for Haas. Like he's a stud. He can get 100 any given week just from 1 or 2 runs alone. And with the lack of superstars available right now because of injury, if you don't have Haas in your team, he should be the buy of the week. But I assume that most people would have him by this stage.
Yeah, most have him, right? And most
Yeah.
people are solving that center problem. I just think
Yeah.
Bo is such a cracker of an option. 637K,
Yeah.
underpriced by about 60K. But yeah, another pod captain as well. Some people jumped on Jaden Campbell last week, and we've had him in the buys for a few weeks now. He went up 70K last week. And I've just decided if you're going to buy Jaden Campbell, you would have had him already. So I haven't put him on this list, but he's one people are considering as a pod captain too. Very risky, very high reward though. So could be a decent shout there. Izzy Katoa's up next, 719K for him. Herbie Farmworth's out, so that impacts the Dolphins' attack quite a bit. But the good news for him is he probably runs the ball a bit more without having the best center in the history of the world, playing outside him. Herbie tackle break machine Farmworth. So he's probably going to run the ball more. And you've also got Jermaine Asako, who is dealing with a bit of an injury, and there's a chance that Isaiah Katoa takes over the goal kicking this week as well. So a couple of things working in his favor. 719K is a reasonable price. Good option there at half. Do you think he's one of those must buys this week, or do you think people can let him go?
The thing is, if he's kicking goals over Averillo, then I think, look, he's averaging 58 and you add 8 points of goals on top, then he becomes this mid 60 guy. Where I said to myself, I wouldn't buy anyone with high ownership in their own home, but then not having a guy like that scoring potentially 65, 70s most weeks is tough, right? So I think he is a cap. If he's kicking goals this week, if there's news that comes out that he'll be kicking goals, I think he's an interesting captain option for sure. And I think if I see him kicking goals, I'll be buying him in this week. But on the flip side, for all the positives, he's been a bit lackluster the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? So he had a hot run of form mid-season, but a lot lower kind of you know, 50 to 51 average over the last
Can I
5
throw you two
rounds.
numbers? The last 2
Yeah.
weeks,
Yeah,
57
bring 'em up.
and 27 run meters.
Yeah, and what he was doing in the middle part of the season was built on 100+ meters a game, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, though, like the conditions are there for him to run the ball more without Herbie. But I think, yeah, like it's tough because Katoa is clearly the second best half, but you have to be able to, if he's not kicking goals, you have to be able to cop a 50 or a 51. He's not a Cleary that gets 60 plus on a bad day. So that's
Yeah.
just the consideration there.
Yeah, he's not a Cam Munster. I get you. We'll talk about Munster as well in the pod section too, who I believe is the second best half now.
Yeah,
Based
I
on
actually do too.
yeah,
I think I
wow.
would be. I think if Katoa's not goal kicking, I would consider getting Munster just
Oh,
to jump on with you, mate. Some
mate,
TCA
those
solidarity.
meters. I,
Yeah,
I liked him as a pod though. You know,
yeah,
staying out of
yeah.
the
I
limelight.
know. I won't talk about
Yeah,
him too much then.
he's in the pods anyway.
We'll quickly fly over him. We'll
I
accidentally
put
miss
him
it.
right after Brad and Best, so everyone
Yeah,
feels like it's a silly selection.
yeah.
But only the real diehards are going to see this bit. Now, Kurt Donahue, give you a few numbers here. Between 70 and 80 minutes a game in the last few weeks, 50 plus tackles the last 3 games, like consecutively. 655K. He's made the most money out of any player in fantasy this year, yet is still a potential buy. Now, if you talked to us about this at the start of the season, we would have been like, oh, what, the fourth string hooker at the Dolphins? No, where's he going to get minutes? They've got Dan Safidi, Tom Flegler, Max Plath, Tom Gilbert, Jerry Marshall King. You know, he wasn't even the backup. Harrison Graham was the backup hooker. And Max Plath was the other hooker. Like, where's he going to get the minutes? You know, Sean O'Sullivan comes onto the bench. Here he is, 655K, pumping out big numbers and very, very considerable at 655K right now. Is it
It's
an ego hit to jump on? Like, what are your thoughts here?
It is a bit of ego hit. I don't think I've ever seen a year where the number one player by a price gained is owned by, I'm pulling up the exact ownership right now, is owned by 6% of coaches. The number one gainer for the year. Only 13% in the top 5,000 and only 7% in the top 100. Like, I think, 55.6 average, playing 70 plus minutes this year at lock. So very, very strong. I mean, he's priced now at 49, so still a bit of value. I mean, no one really cares about value. I don't know what the highest score is, but with a 55 average, he's up there with the highest scorers. Like, that's the same as a Paddy Carrigan, for example, who people would be happily buying at this stage of the year. So the question for me last week was, they got a couple of troops back. Is he going to keep playing 80 minutes? And he did. And it's a question of, are there any more troops potentially coming back in the last few rounds? And I honestly think Donahue has earned his big minute role. But the question is, like, he really needs 80 minutes every week at that lock position. It can't be 60 minutes. It can't be 70 minutes. It has to be 80 minutes. Like, he's not a Carrigan who can have that level of output in 65 minutes, right? So that's the only question mark. But hey, that's probably what everyone's been questioning him for the last 5 weeks, and he keeps delivering. And now he's 655K. So I think it's a great option. I think a lot of players might need that second hooker as well if they don't have a Clark, they don't have a Watson, they don't have a Grant. If they only have one of those, then Donahue covers 2 positions, and we know how valuable dual position players are at this point of the year. And you're seeing guys like Yo, missing a couple of weeks. They're not worth trading. So if you guys got a guy like Donahue you can plug into your mids, you can do a lot worse.
I got a few return dates as well for you. So Finapuyaki this week, round 24. Oh, well, it says round 24. He's back this week on the bench. Felice Kafusi back from suspension, round 25. Herbie, round 27, hopefully. And then for TBC or next season, we have Tom Flegler, Jack Bostock, Tom Gilbert, Max Plath, Dan Safidi. So really not a lot that's going to impact him in terms of minutes. Like that edge rotation, it just means that Lemuelu is not an 80-minute player. None of those guys are playing in the middle. So I think he's a fair shout. And if you need the hooker cover as well, then he becomes even more important because he covers hooker and half, which is just incredible. Whereas if you have a pure hooker already, it's probably not as important unless your pure hooker is a Blake Brayley, where you're sort of thinking, all right, maybe I do need to cover for that Sharks buy coming up. So not a bad shout at all. And then ripping through.
I accidentally said half mid. I forgot he's half hooker. So
that's all right.
So I said hooker mid. Yeah. Yeah, it's strange how
At
it
this
works.
time of the year, if you don't know what position they are, like watching along, then you're stuffed. Troll Mitt, the last one here, named in jersey 22, 730K. We know what Latrell can do. He's that dog. He's that dog. He's the third dog of the show. We brought the other two on earlier. This is Troll Mitt. 60 average is well within the realm of outcomes. The fixtures for South Sydney are amazing, but South Sydney are an absolute basket case with injuries right now. So a good fixture doesn't guarantee a win whatsoever. This is the most nuclear, high upside, high risk option you can go for because he plays on Sunday and there's no guarantee he's going to play this week. Biz, what scenario would someone have to be in where they would buy Latrell Mitchell? Because I feel like it's not for everyone, but there are scenarios where it does make sense.
I think if you're desperate, you've got a tough matchup in head-to-head where you're the underdog. You need something miraculous to cover a lot of ranks. Then that's probably the only reasons why. I just think that, look, given where the Souths are at this point of the season, it doesn't make sense to me to rush a guy back. He's named as the last person on the bench. But if you kind of get to Friday and they're cutting the squad and he's still there, then it kind of becomes interesting. I think look, the Latrell is the question is also it was a quad injury, and look, last time he was on the bye section, he didn't even make it to the weekend. So hopefully, this is the reverse curse. This undoes it, and he's very healthy and he plays really well. But with that quad injury, I also wonder how much in-play, in-game kicking will he do? Because we saw when Cleary and etc. had quad injuries, they last year especially they shared kick meters. Last year was like Cleary and Luai for a bit, and in the sort of like groin, quad, foot injuries, etc. So Latrell was the thing is Latrell is really good at fullback even without 600 kick meters a game. But that nuclear upside comes from having that as well. But they do have a decent run of fixtures. I think it's not the worst. So it's going to be
other than round 26.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if he's not a buy this week, there's a very big chance he's a buy of the week next week when he's around. But again, like with Trell having that round 26 buy, you want to maximize him on the field in your team. So if you like those scenarios I listed, if you needed some desperation play that has a lot of upside, then Trell is a guy. And I think with Herbie going down, if you've got a guy like Kiraz or whatnot, move him to your centers and play Trell at fullback. I think Trell, like I've spoken about all year, is probably the best fullback in the game in fantasy. Barring Jaden Campbell's hot runner form the last 2 weeks. I think it's interesting. Don't tempt me, Longy. I've already got Humphreys who Latrell will kill. So, yeah.
I mean, Humphreys is gone. If you want the highest upside strategy in fantasy right now, it's high risk, high reward. What you do is you get Latrell Mitchell this week. You play Turbo as your starting center. You don't worry about center depth. Next week, you get Adam Doueihi. And you stack Adam Doueihi with Latrell Mitchell. Adam Doueihi in the halves next to Luai, who had 40 meters run, 40 meters kicked. Just beat Latu Finu in the stat sheet. So Adam Doueihi just carrying the halves role next to Latrell Mitchell. 80 plus potential every week for both of them. So that's the high upside angle you could take. Bo Firma is the safer option where he does have that upside too. But, we play fantasy for fun, right? So
yeah. If there was options. I think if Trell was genuinely looking like he was going to play, he was going to goal kick, and I was fairly confident of that come lockout, I would do Herbie Trell. Yeah, like I need to make ranks, and I'm not going to make ranks buying like an Isaiah Katella. So I would heavily consider. I would just need to see some pictures of him at the captain's run kicking goals or something. So
yeah. I'm with you. I could start Turbo. Turbo. I've got trades. If I need another center, which I will, because they get injured every second week, then I can deal with that then. So
that's right.
That's Troll Mitt. Now let's tear into. I've changed the order. We're going pods next. So let's tear into our pod of the week. Dan Gagai in the fullback spot, and this is the alternative at the center position. So big Gagai is 608k, priced at a 45. His average at fullback this year across 3 games is a 56. He is now goal kicking, and they have a decent enough draw at Newcastle. Biz, what would you be thinking here with Gagai? Like, obviously, Bo Firma is that safer option. The price difference isn't much. It's 29k. Is there any reason why someone would go Gagai? Like, is that 56 average sustainable? What's your thoughts here?
I mean, the guy averaged 55 at center for a couple of years. I think there's no reason why, with goal kicking added, he can average in the low to mid 50s at fullback. I think the Knights are so down in terms of the troops this year that Gagai is just the focal point of their attack. Like, Crossland is not an attacking hooker. Jaden Bray is not doing that for them. I believe Jake Arthur at half this week. Like, it's just a tough situation in Newcastle right now. Obviously,
Sorry,
Ponga's
Jake
gone,
Arthur,
Sharp's gone.
grand final try scorer. Jake Arthur.
True,
right?
true.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, how can I disrespect that?
That's the kind of leadership that Newcastle's lacking at this stage. Because
100%.
I don't know, if he can score against the Panthers dynasty, then imagine the consolation try he can have this week.
Look, this elevates Gagai to a potential 75 plus scorer, right? So just having that half feed you ball. Nah, but all jokes aside, I think look, the reason you do a Gagai, again, like I said, at this time of year, if you're trying to make ranks, everyone's going to be grabbing Bo. He's already up pretty high ownership. I think it's 50+% in the top 5,000. If you're trying to move up ranks, then buying Bo not going to do that for you. Like, you need a Gagai, you need a Zach Lomax, you need these pod guys who, Leader Latrell, who, if they have a big score, will move you up the ranks. And yeah, like, you might lose ranks, right, by having a worse scorer. But, me personally, I would rather lose a few ranks with the opportunity to gain a ton than just be happy just being flat for the rest of the year. Because everyone's going to be on the same play as you. If you have one pod a week and they go gangbusters, you might make a couple hundred ranks. So you need a few. And I like this one. I like, in terms of pods at center, I like Gagai, I like Trell, I like Trell, obviously, if you have someone to cover the center. And then Zach Lomax, I think, is an interesting option with Moses back. I know he had a bad game, but not too far aside in a double against the Broncos from 50+ score as well. So I think there's definitely some options there. I like Gagai, and I also like Bradman Best. So I don't know if you have anything more to add on Gagai. Are you considering either of them?
I am considering Gagai. If Best was cheaper, by the way, if he was 500K for some reason, something like that, I'd be looking at it. But at the same price point, it's very difficult to justify Bradman Best with the risk there. And both Firma and Dan Gagai both have that 100+ upside as well. So Best doesn't really have the upside advantage over them anymore. Back in the day when that used to not be the case, it was different, but they've really elevated. So yeah, I think the goal kicking is the big thing here for Gagai, because that's worth nearly 2 points a game at Newcastle.
Yeah.
And that's
If they get a penalty, yeah.
Yeah, 2-0 early. But really, I know I give Newcastle a bit of crap, but it's because they're fellow spoon contenders, and I want to try and lower their confidence before the spoon bowl in round 27. But we've got three Newcastle players here. I think Gagai is a fun shout. Like, that 56 average is reasonable. Knights are playing some fun footy at the moment as well. And he's been a weapon at fullback. He's been pumping out big meters. His tackle breaks have been between 5 and 10 every game. He's finding some attacking stats too, and he's sort of showing that he can still ball out. And insanely, Newcastle said, "No, we don't want you anymore. Go test the open market." He then comes out and shows them that he's the best player at the club, basically. And then they go, "Actually, yeah, we'll re-sign you." And they probably paid double what they had to because of that stupid stunt they pulled. But he's earned another contract there. So I don't know if Bo Firma was still 700K, I'd jump on Gagai. But the price gap is so small, and I'm already rising every week. Like, I'm rising 2 to sort of 400 ranks a week already as it stands, just through good roster management, I think, and a bit of luck as well. So I'm sort of just thinking I'm just going to keep that rolling. But if I was sliding, I'd get Gagai at 1,000%.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I still can't believe the Dylan Brown contract, but after this. But look, I think I understand that. And with Bradman Best, just moving on to him, is that he's got great upside, but he is more inconsistent. He's got some low scores in him. Knights, like we talked about, they could barely score a try with Fletcher Sharp, with Kalen Ponga. I don't think, obviously he's had a couple of big scores recently, but he's got a lot of injury risk. He's got his soft tissue injuries. So as the kind of season wears on, he could be rested, or he could get a lot of minutes, or less of a role, or just a high potential re-injury risk. It's not something I'd be willing to gamble my last couple of trades on. But I think if you're looking at a Newcastle Knights center pod, I would prefer Gagai myself. But
Great. The other guys match the upside. I've just put him in here because he could come out and pump out 100. Up against,
he could definitely.
Panthers is not a great matchup, but he could have a few hundreds to finish. And I don't know, if you were sitting ranked 20th, for example, He's one of those ones that you might think about as that nuclear pod. Kai Pearce-Paul's super popular right now, but he is still a pod at this stage. It's an interesting one because everyone was really off him. He had that one low-scoring game where he scored, I can't remember, like a 30-odd score.
It was like it wasn't even that low. I think it was like closer to 40, to be honest.
Yeah, 38, 37. Everyone
Yeah.
freaked out, and I was just getting, are we selling Kai Pearce-Paul? Are we, just non-stop for about 2 weeks straight? And he's come back to his regular scores, and he scored a try again. And tries aren't normally a part of his scoring profile, but the big thing I'm liking here is because Newcastle's attack is so fragmented now, and they've just got a bunch of new pieces there. He's taking responsibility. And last game, not last week because he had the bye, but the game before that, he had 4 offloads. Now, if Kai Pearce-Paul is out there thinking, you know what, the attack is my responsibility, and he's looking more for tries, he's looking more for offloads, that kind of thing. He's the kind of guy who can create those sorts of plays. And there's going to be a few errors in there as well, but fantasy doesn't care about a minus 2-point error when an offload is 4 points and a try is often like 20 points. So 701K, he's pretty pricey here. He's probably a tier below your Izzy Katoa types. If you need an edge back rower, he's probably one of the best in the game. Could be a decent shout.
I don't know if he's below Eli Katoa. I think he's average 56.
I said Izzy Katoa.
Oh, Izzy Katoa. I think
got him ahead of Eli
Katoa's
Katoa.
edge. Yeah, I've got
I'm
him.
more comparing to Izzy because they're the same price, right?
Yeah. Well, I actually think, like, look, his last 3 scores, 61, 61, 71. So he's doing really well. Obviously, the Izzy Katoa comparison really depends on whether Izzy's kicking goals, but I don't mind it because the big thing is the lower ownership for Kai Pearce-Paul, where he's kind of 6% owned overall, and then 22%, 23% in the top 1,000. His base stats are good, right? Like 35 to 45 tackles, 120 meters a game, and then he's an offloader and he's got attacking upside. So I don't mind the Kai Pearce-Paul by one bit. I was looking at him quite heavily a couple of weeks ago, but with the buy, I didn't get him. But then he pumped out that 71, which is a great score. But like last 3 round average of, close to 65, 66. I think that's exactly what you want, Longy. You've been on him for a long time. And I think he's a great buy if you're looking for an edge because of the low ownership.
I do worry a tiny bit about the halves though, because Hastings there, as much as Hastings for some reason is the least popular man in the NRL, he keeps the team going straight, and he's a genuine halfback. And you now got Cogger and Jake Arthur, who they've both shown a bit of ability at times, but I could imagine a world where they're both completely rattled and just throwing hospital balls and, not on top of it at all, right? So, but they have their days too. Like they have their good days, but I can't imagine the two of them really nailing it. I don't know. Like, where is the good ball going to come from Kai Pearce-Paul? I'd rather the Hastings Gamble combo because they're just such dogs, and equal enough talent wise, but just the mentality. I just feel like they're a bit different. So, Newcastle's going to need to play tough down the stretch, and Pearce-Paul is a decent shout though. Lindsay Smith's another one to talk about here, and he's named at prop this week. So playing at prop without Yo, he normally doesn't actually have his role change too much. When he plays at lock, he pumps out big numbers. He's at prop, and I've included him in this list because a lot of people are asking about props and middle forwards this week. And I'm just going to do a quick gloat here about how strongly we were saying hold Tarpanay, hold AFB, those types of guys. Both pumped out some big numbers, and they're helping me. Now, Tarpanay is back on top. You can't buy him because he's got a buy coming up, but Tarpanay is now my pod. So that's a little brag out of the way. Lindsay Smith, we'll talk about Pat Carrigan here as well, because we've talked about Carrigan ad nauseum, and nothing's changed with Carrigan. Do you have any interest in Lindsay Smith, though? Like, he grabbed a big score last week. He's had a try recently as well. I feel like he's a bit hit and miss. Like, I think he's just this constant mirage. Like, every 3 or 4 weeks, he looks like a great buy, and then he has a 35-point game, and this could be it.
Yeah, I think the thing is, while Yo's out, I think he could have some big games. The thing is, he's had a few big scores, but in not really sustainable minutes. Like the last 4 is 50, 50, 75, and 61 are his last 4 scores, but they've come in 50 to 55-minute games. Like at the start of the year when he was playing 60 minutes, and there was a couple of games where he played 70 minutes, maybe, but he's not getting a minutes bump. He's just very efficient on the field. And that is harder to bank on week in, week out for a prolonged period of time than an increase in minutes. So I think there's a lot of mid options at that equivalent pod level at 650K. I think with again, like I keep harping on ownership, but at this point of year, that matters. Like Lindsay Smith is 0.4% owned in the top 5,000. So that is very interesting. In terms of any kind of big score you get, that's you moving up the ranks because no one else really has him. That is the biggest draw card for me because, well, it's actually the second draw card is that they might rest a lot of their key forwards at the back end of the year. But I don't know if Lindsay Smith fits in the rest category for them. I don't think he's one of those. He's not a Yo for sure. Like if Yo's carrying a bung shoulder, if Isaiah Papali'i and Sorensen have been carrying injuries, Liam Martin's carrying an injury. Those guys might get lower minutes and rest at the back end of the year. I don't think Lindsay Smith will. If anything, he'll have to soak up more and more. And that could be a bit of upside for him towards the back end of the season. So not the worst, but I think there are probably better options out there. But at this point of the year, I don't think you'll ever hear critique from me and Longy for putting your neck out on a pod like that. Like I think they all have, when you're looking for a pod, they all have some element of downside, right? That's why they're not highly owned. And you just got to figure out how much risk you're willing to underwrite on some of these guys.
Cool thing too is you have to be right for about 5 weeks. So
yeah,
it's a small window. It gets smaller and smaller as you go along. And you see, look back, I think it was 2023, the Manly boys, like Tolu Kola had like 100 points in the last week. DCE went like 90, then 100 the last 2 games. Like Rob, who we love, he captained DCE in that last game and it nearly got him the win for fantasy, right? So you just like your window of correctness is just smaller and smaller. And it allows for more and more flukes. And that's where even a guy like Bradman Best becomes super considerable. The other pod we'll talk about here as well, and this one's a bit safer, is Cam Munster. And look, I've been harping on about Munster for a long time, and everyone gives me shit like, "Oh, why don't you sell Munster? Oh, you're so biased." Oh well, look now, 64 points, 64 points. He only had 10 points of attacking stats. I want to read you some numbers here. Cam Munster across this season, his highest kick meter total was 266 meters. Last game he had 520. That with 75 run meters here. And an interesting thing to note is the last 3 consecutive games, he has had 30 plus tackles with an average of only 2 missed tackles. So defensive stats, getting about 30 points from defense each week, which is immense. You throw in the fact that he has a turnover every second game at least, and he's pumping some numbers here and without big attacking plays. Because you look at his last few games, he hasn't scored a try since round 10. And before that, he only scored 1 other try in round 5. So we're seeing this run where Munster actually hasn't been that effective in attack. We're now beefing up the base stats there. We have a Storm side who struggled to score points against Parramatta, had 1 line break in that game, right? Munster's going to need to pull out some real OG Munster ball, and if he still has it, it's going to come out. And the ownership, you talked about it as well. His ownership in the top 100 is 0%. His ownership in the top 1,000 is 0.2%, and I think I'm half of that. And his ownership in the top 5,000 is 0.44%. So monster pod here, potential for it. Like his base last week was a 54, right? Great base, could be hot. Might get a rest at the end with Jonah Pezzett sitting on the bench. That is the concern, but could be a nuclear option. And if I was sitting in a position where, I don't know, let's say I was really chasing those top dogs, I'd take a shot at Munster.
Mate, 100%. I think he's a great buy this week. I mean, just think about it. He's averaged 48, 49 this season off like 150 kick meters. Jerome Hughes in the last 7 weeks, the reason why he was churning out so many big scores is he was basing off like a solid foundation of 550 odd kick meters. Now that split is completely reversed with Wishart has taken Munster's kick meters and Munster has taken Hughes' kick meters. So that's an extra 10 to 12 points in kick meters alone, not accounting for the fact that Munster's probably doing more, like he's taking the ball more often and he's running more of the show. Like Wishart is an opportunistic runner of the ball. He's not demanding the ball to run the sets. Like the sets are going to be running through Munster. So if you just take 10 points of kick meters, add it to his previous average, he's averaging the high 50s. He's almost already at 60. So he becomes an Isaac Katoa level average, and then you add that attacking upside. Then you add the additional times he's getting the ball, the additional burden he has to lift in the offense. Like Munster could be a 60-plus guy. I'm not saying. I mean, he's not the same Munster he was a couple of years ago, right? He's older, but he looks healthier this year. Like the last couple of years, he's been carrying that very lingering groin injury. And I'm not saying this is the reason he's not in our buys of the week, etc., is there's risk around him, right? Like we've only seen that kick meter split once with Wishart. Hey, maybe they'll play this week and it's 50-50 split and we look stupid. I think it's unlikely, but there is the chance that happens. But I think we've seen Munster has a big score in him, and we've never really seen a Munster that's dominating for 500 kick meters a game. So the opportunity for big fantasy scores with that foundation of kick meters, that's what is like really interesting to me. On top of, once again, the very low ownership.
Yeah, mate, scorching hot. You throw in the fact too, it's a Broncos matchup this week. And for Munster, you're not looking for an easy matchup. You're not looking for him to be playing, South Sydney's reserve grade side. You're looking for a matchup where it's going to be a bit of a shootout and he's going to be asked to step up. Like, that's how Munster works. He's not a rack up, consolation tries guy. He's a step up when it's needed. And the Broncos don't like defending right now, but they love to attack. So it's a perfect game on Thursday. Could be a great pod. He could have been in the buys. He could have been the pod of the week as well. But I figured we've talked about him so much, and most people don't need a half right now. They need a center. So we're going to talk about.
But to be fair, when we've talked about him, it's mostly just poking fun at you. So not any serious conversation. I know it's like you almost. It's like you knew in round 1 that he'd become such a good buy in round 23 or 24.
Yeah, like, look, we stuck with it. We stuck with it. It wasn't great for a while there, but he's come good. Now, ripping into some cheapies here, and we'll go through pretty quickly here. Wishart scored a 36 last week. It changes absolutely nothing about how I view him. He had a game where he didn't score a try. Didn't have tackle breaks, didn't have a line break. Okay, great. That's half of his games. Half of his games, he scores 36 and he doesn't have any attacking stats. The other half, he has attacking stats and he pops off. Nothing has changed. He's a slightly more expensive option. At 351K, I still view him as a great loophole option. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think we covered him extensively last week, so I don't think we have to rehash a lot of that. But becomes an easy looper, great looping profile. He's either 30 or like 75, so works well.
Bang. Sam Healy, bit of chat that Wade Egan could miss a few more weeks. Sam Healy was phenomenal last week. Like, he looks like a guy who could average 60 at hooker. I don't know if that's sustainable, but if we got confirmation Egan was out for a while, he's actually scoreable at hooker. Any love at all for spending the extra 50K here, or no go?
It's too late in the season for me to want to do anything risky.
You
like Egan to come back.
2-week rental,
No.
rookie hooker.
Nah, I'm good. I think he does average 55 in the reserve grade team, and that's not even off 80 minutes. That's like off generally 60 to 70 minutes most weeks. So it's a pretty crazy scoring profile, but unfortunately not for me.
So he's ruining his price for next year, is what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. Then Josh Papali'i, we've talked about him a bunch. He had an average game last week. Wet weather against the Storm, low scoring, scored a 20. It changes nothing. We said he was like a 30 to 40 kind of guy. He still is a 30 to 40 guy. He'll have a bigger day against Newcastle in the Spoon Bowl, but he's also going to have some quieter games as well. So still a decent cash out. Pretty good job security there. Ashton Ward for South Sydney. Can you get your thoughts here? If Troll comes back in here, Biz, Jai Gray's at fullback. Jai Gray's been pretty good the last few weeks, even though they've been getting smashed. Jamie Humphries is the guy. Ashton Ward had a great defensive game. Like, he was very solid in defense. He ran the ball, did a little bit of kicking. Looked good for a young guy. I thought, even though they got smashed, I thought he was respectable. I thought he had a real crack in this game. Do you think it's easy, though, for them to just say, you know what, we'll bring Latrell back in and we'll play Jai Gray at half and, we'll let Ashton Ward go back to reserve grade instead of playing in this, understrength side?
Yeah, I think honestly that probably makes the most sense rather than bringing him into this side where he's undersized. I think he's still young. He has room to grow. He could be used as the bench utility too. Like they've shown, Brandon Smith's around. There might be a point where Smith becomes the 9 and they run him as the bench 9 because they haven't really shown a lot of love for Mamazolis since he came back from injury. Like he's been on the bench. He's been behind Havili a couple of times. So I don't know what their future plans are for Pino Mamazolis. So Ashton Ward could be their utility on the bench, similar to what Jai Gray was doing at points of the year. So look, I wouldn't be buying Ashton Ward because 1, low job security, and then 2, has the buy anyway. So he's one to keep an eye out on. I think I looked at his reserve grade stats, not bad at all. It's like a 40 odd. So just hoping he doesn't ruin his price for next year as well.
Yeah, bit of a stud. Keep an eye on it. There may be a South Sydney injury during the week too. There's usually something that comes up every week for South Sydney, so maybe
Yeah.
he becomes a buy. So we got to flag him. Then Tavita Nafahu at the Dolphins there, playing the center spot. There's theories that Herbie Farnworth actually wasn't special. It's just the left center spot at the Dolphins that gets you a 65 average. So maybe Nafahu, I can't even say that with a straight face. But Nafahu wasn't great when he did come in on the wing. He at 240K is just the cheaper option that has a pretty good set of job security in a team where he's going to score some tries. That's the appeal. Right? He's a bit of a cash out that could be vaguely scoreable at times. Any extra thoughts there? Cheapies, man, that's why I've moved the Cheapies back. It's not really something we're doing at this stage, is it?
Yeah, 39 average in reserves could be interesting. But I think he's one you would potentially consider if you have no coverage in your backs and you needed a cash out to afford a gun. Then he could be an interesting option. But the thing is, they've had a lot of injuries, Dolphins, to the backs, but they do have quite a few players that they can put in and move around there. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure about his job security. So I personally, I think if you're using a trade this year, I'd much rather get a Joash Papali. So he's guaranteed to be there, even though his scoring profile might be more hit and miss.
Yep. Well, Nafahu's around. Now, ripping into the holds this week, and we got Drinkwater, Lockie Galvin, Big Tino here, Noani Tuase, and Yo. And this one's going to be a bit more contentious here because these are all guys I'm getting questions about. Scott Drinkwater's the first one. I personally, Biz, think that 25 in the wet weather when they got pounded by the Sharks, who, love to step up every now and then and sort of show that they should be a good team and then go back to being super dodgy. But for Drinkwater, it was a game that just didn't go his way, right? He's going to have a bunch of good fixtures coming up. He's got a really nice run of fixtures before round 27's bye, where I think he heats up. And I love Drinkwater. I like watching him play. He didn't goal kick a lot of this game, which was a bit concerning. But I just think at 563K, with the good fixtures, loopability, at the wing fullback spot that's not been convincing at all, you stick with him. Like I'm seeing people suggesting, they got 3 trades left and they're going, all right, I'll sell Herbie and I'll sell Drinkwater. Get another one. It's like, no. Don't do that. Don't do that. He's a great 18th man or a starter if you're desperate. Like for me, he's a starter with these
He's
fixtures.
a starter.
I'm going to trust him.
Yeah,
you're on that train?
Yeah, I just it's either him or Turbo starting for me, and I don't particularly love Turbo versus the Raiders at fullback. He was fine at center, I think. At fullback, I don't know.
Yeah, so center Turbo was the best.
Center Turbo was an era, man. But like I will just say, in terms of holds, I think anyone who's got a 40+ score in them, respectively at this time of year, like you just have to hold them now. There's no point. You're seeing the injury rate this year. Like a 35-point Drinkwater is worth more than a 0-point XYZ. So just hold any player who don't hold like the Latu Fauna, for example, because playing him on a week you need a player is like the same as having 0. Like if you're getting 3 points, fine, use the trade. But if Drinkwater's a guy that you're playing for 35s and 40s most weeks, at the very least, easy hold. So
yeah, let me read you these fixtures too. Ready? Eels, Knights, Tigers. That's ideal. That's all bottom 5. And then Broncos in a Queensland Derby. And then the bye. Like they're all cracker. They're all absolutely cracker. So yeah, super easy one. Hold the drink. Trust the drink. It's time for drink. And he went back to back 60+ before that, didn't he? Like
it was like 4 out of 5 scores before that were pretty solid.
Yeah. So he's fine. He just has bad games. Lockie Galvin up next, and everyone's suggesting selling Lockie Galvin because of the injuries he's got: an ankle, a wrist. He's getting the injection this week to play in this game, so maybe he's a bit dodgy against the Warriors this round. I just think we bought him at 450K or whatever the price was, 475, to be a 20th man. And if he's a bit dodgy, so be it. That's part of the deal. Like, I think people are forcing trades again, and I think Lockie Galvin's a guy you hold on to.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd trade a guy who's come off 255s after one score in terrible weather against. Look, it wasn't a revenge game, but it wasn't for Galvin. It was a revenge game for the Tigers, and they swamped him. Like they were so hyped up to play. Yeah, good on them, and they were so hyped up to play against him. Like, so be it. Like that, he's not going to get that much attention in a game ever again, right? If he's his name this week, he's apparently going to play with painkillers again, I'm definitely holding, like you, Longy, like I said at the start of the show, got him in like zero. There's no chance I sell him unless he has like a season-ending injury. Like I don't care if he gives me 20 this week again. I'm holding next week, and I'm going to hold until he's done for the year.
Yeah, I'll shout out too. Burton was on -1 at halftime in that game, so it's not a Lockie Galvin issue. The Dogs just did not click at all in the wet weather, and we saw earlier this year. Remember the Broncos absolutely smashed the Dogs in the wet weather too.
Yeah,
They're just a team who can't play when it's raining. Like that's what I'm starting to think about them. They just fall apart when it's a bit wet. Bit of rain forecast this week, by the way, so that might not be good news. Try not to start him in year 17. I'm okay with that. Like bench him, but don't sell him. Big Tino's up next, 563K, and this is sort of I want to include this because a lot of people are asking about Jolliffe, Fortawaka, these guys. Tino's due back pretty soon. I think it might be next week. You're a Tino owner, aren't you?
I'm a Tino owner. I was going to sell him last week, but then I saw an article. I think it was one of the Queensland newspapers where he said that he's ahead of schedule and he should be back for round 24 or even so I think next week he's back. Look, the thing with Tino is I'm not expecting a 55-60 average to end the year. I just don't think there's a need for the Titans to play him big minutes. But on the flip side of that, if they're starting to play a lot better and they're getting momentum for next year, like then maybe. Like if they're losing every game by a landslide, I think he's just going to play 45, 50 minutes, which is still a respectable 30-plus score at the end of the year. But the way the Gold Coast are playing, I can see them giving Tino some decent enough minutes to end the year to keep building momentum into 2026.
Yeah, they're killing it. And they might have a spin bowl as well. Tigers round 27. So, Eels versus Knights, Titans versus Tigers. They got something to play for there. I personally reckon you're spot on there. Like they've beat the Warriors, they nearly beat the Panthers. They're heating up at the right time, and they obviously care. Like look at the way Jaden Campbell's playing. He obviously gives a shit what's going on here. So I think they're in it.
Yeah, love to see it.
Yeah. Now, Noani Tuase is up next, and a lot of people wanting to sell Marky Mark. I think this one's a big mistake. And I think if you sell Mark Noani Tuase, you are going to live to regret it. Now, we talked about him when he was that pod that we talked about as well. We talked about that 1.5 tries per game scoring rate on the wing and that not being sustainable. What we've seen is a regression to essentially 0 tries a game for quite a while here now. So we're seeing him scoring in that 35 kind of range. That tracks. Like that tracks. He's a winger. He's a try-scoring winger. If he doesn't score a try, it's going to be a 35. He's got the Dolphins this week, and he's up against the edge that Herbie Farmworth and Jack Bostock are meant to be on. They're not there, right? So I could see him and Robert Toya absolutely feasting in this game. And I reckon anyone who sells Noani Tuase has to be ready for the fact that they're going to be complaining that he scored 85 points this week. Like as a non-owner, I'm jealous of people who have him. That's how much of a hold he is. Like, if I had 20 trades left, I'd probably go buy him right now at 563K. Like, I just think he's going to finish strong. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree. He's gone 4 games without a try. We know how lucrative those wing spots for the Roosters are for try scoring. And we've seen him manufacture tries out of thin air that no one else could. I think, one, like you've nailed all the points on the head. And 2, he's just a fun guy to own, right? So it makes it interesting to watch the league. And I think just in general that, Nwanga he could 35 2 weeks in a row with no tries is what you want to see. So if he scored a double against the Dolphins last time they played, not a huge score, but still a double, he could pop off any given week. And if 35 is his low end, I know he had a high 20 score the week before that, but there's not going to be. He's definitely going to score a try a game from here. I reckon. He had like a run of doubles. Now it's been offset by like a run of no tries, and like it's going to come out to about 1 try a game for sure. So I think if you can make the same arguments for Teddy, because Teddy's been pretty average the last few weeks as well. So if you're not thinking of selling Tedesco, then why would you sell Nwanga Iwase? They're just going through a run of tougher games. Like even Teddy's last 3 games, 27, 43, 36. He's now at 600K. So I think just write it out. Like the Roosters will come good in terms of their backs.
That 27 with the try as well. So, yeah, Sam Walker's sort of taking over a lot of the playmaking. I'm finding, but they're going to gel. They're going to gel. So, yeah, I agree with you there completely. Then Isaiah Yeo, is there any world where you consider selling him? Like, let me explain, right? If we got confirmation, because it's still a bit murky, what we're hearing here, where like, he's not playing this week. It sounds like it's not major. It sounds like it's probably a 1 week off kind of deal. But hypothetically, if he's a chance of coming back, a bit like Toby Couchman did, where it's a bit unstable and maybe there's a chance he re-triggers it. Let's call it a 20% chance each week that he re-triggers it, gets a rest at the end of the year. Like, how many trades would you have to have where you'd be selling him? Because for me, if it was 5 or 6 trades in the bank, maybe 7 trades, if I was head-to-head focused in particular, I'd sell him. I'd sell him in a heartbeat. I just think all of this sounds too murky for me.
I mean, yeah, you talk about Couchman. I mean, in terms of shoulder injuries, we saw what happened to Olaquatu, like came back and redid his shoulder. Different injury, obviously, but still with shoulder instability, I assume. I'm not the NRL physio, but you know, in a game where you're making with Isaiah 50 tackles with your shoulders a week, it's probably not the best position to be in. They probably don't need him playing big minutes either. Yeah, if I had 5 trades, I'd be considering trading Yo. I think I have 3 right now. So it's not one I'm considering right now. But like, even if he does take a couple of weeks off and he comes back at the back end of the year, there's no reason why he wouldn't get a rest or lower minutes as well. So he's probably not going to be the Yo that we bought him for, just because of this shoulder issue. He tried to play on with it last week, so it couldn't have been that bad, but he played on for another 20 odd minutes and then he didn't come back on. So, and he looked in a lot of pain. Like when he went down, my initial thoughts were he's done for the year. So the way he went down, because Isaiah is a very hardy player. I never really see him milking penalties or staying down in pain unless he's really hurt. He's just a real rigid man. So it's not a great sign, but I think just while it's murky, you just have to hold, given the trade scenario.
Yep, same boat here. I got 4 trades. I got to sell Herbie. If his money added value to me, so say if Herbie was 500k, I might think about doing a double and selling Yo potentially, and using the money. But the money just isn't worth anything to me. Like, if we sell Herbie, I bank 200k, 250k because I got 50k in the bank. What am I going to sell Yo for? Who's 950k that I want?
Mm-hmm.
No one is. No one is. All right. So
yeah.
it's a brutal situation. So yeah, we're stuck with him. And maybe he comes back good. Maybe it's just 1 week where gives it a rest and he's fantastic for the rest of the year. Maybe this is the rest. And he doesn't get a rest at the end.
Yeah, maybe it's not that bad at all, and they're just being very, very cautious. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Could be that. The Warriors, like you got Sorensen, Luke Garner's earned the minutes there. Papali'i, like they've got a lot of guys. Liam Henry can sponge up minutes too. So that's what Isaiah Yo is. And the reason he was last on that hold list because he is a little bit sellable. Now, sells here. The bottom 2 we'll talk about in a bit more depth. So if you're just looking at this and you're thinking, all right, cool, I'll sell Duncan, I'll sell Garrick, just skip ahead to that bit or listen along. Herbie Farnworth, he's out till round 27 is sort of the earliest estimation there. 842k. It's a rough one. He's been an absolute killer for us. Fantastic. The most fun player to own in fantasy in a long time. Beers, I'll let you say your last few words here for the great Herbinator.
At 65 average on mostly attacking stats, that's as fun as it gets to watch. So great season, Herbie. I'm just very interested in the argument whether you'd start with him next year. So it's I'm not something I'm worried about now, but what a season, huh? But he's a freak.
Mate, next year it's gonna be tricky. I tell you what, I won't start with Terrell May next year. I will say that because I think his minutes are stupid. I think he's not making enough his usual impact. Like he's not scoring tries, he's not busting the line like he did at the Roosters, and I think it's catching up to him now. And I think he'd be better with 60 minutes a game, but it won't work for fantasy. That's my take on Terrell May for next year. Latu Fainu, 374k. He's got the bye this week, coming off a game where he played 32 minutes, scored 3 points. You heard the call about his 12 meters the week before, and he went, you know what, I can outdo that. And no, look, he's a young half. It's a tricky situation because you have Adam Dewey is so dominant. He's such a dominant playmaker. And then Jerome Luai is such a big personality. And it's a tricky situation to step into for Latu Fainu. So I'm confident he's going to be a guy in the league, but I do like to take the piss out of the fantasy scores. But just know it is the fantasy scores I'm taking the piss out of, not Latu Fainu himself. But he's a sell at this stage.
Yeah, I sold him last week. I was kind of worried after Galvin at 21, but luckily Fainu only did 3. So still 18-point net improvement.
Massive jump. I will say too, don't sell Latu Fainu if you're buying someone who you're not going to put in your 17. That's the one caveat there. Then Celesi Fiketti, he's more of a sell because he's dropping cash at a rapid rate here. played 20 minutes last week. PPM was fine in that 20 minutes, but his role is super minimal. Nat Butcher is out for a period of time now, so that slightly helps him, but he's still not a starter. He needs 80 minutes. He's not going to get it. He's done a job for us. Thank you for the 200K. Goodbye for Ketty.
That's right. Not much more to add there. It's kind of weird how his role dropped off so badly, but yeah, Radley back starting this week as well. So yeah, so thanks for Keddy, but see you next year.
Yep, adios. You did a job. Do you think there's any chance Latrell Mitchell comes back, plays center, and Talis Duncan goes back into the forwards this week?
Look, I don't think so. I mean, potentially, but I actually think I heard Campbell Graham was pretty close. Forgive me if I'm wrong. He wasn't named this week, but what I was reading the early mail yesterday is that he's closing in on a potential return. So if they're rushing Trell back, then I see no reason why they wouldn't rush Campbell Graham back if he was eligible to play. So I think Duncan is an interesting one because once Campbell Graham goes back, Duncan goes back to the edge rotation and he becomes a much better player. So I think Duncan is actually, in my mind, worth holding, especially if you can afford to keep him out of your 17. But if he's like locked and loaded your starter, then that's a big gamble to take, especially if you have to, if you're a 16 players this week, if you don't trade him. So I think if you can afford to leave him out, then hold him, but otherwise he's a sell.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about him because there is that chance he moves back into the back row. I personally don't think he's as elite a scorer as everyone thinks, though. I think Cody Walker being out hurts more than everyone's sort of thinking too. So I think he's a pretty firm sell, but there is a chance he goes to the back row. So if you want to hold out for that, you totally can.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I agree with you. Like, even if he goes back to the back row, I think he's a low 40 player. Like, I don't hear that hot run, but I don't think that's him. That was just like one of those periods. If you got him, he was just hot. Like, that's not his average, like long term.
Yeah, Cody fed him, man. Cody fed him, and look, he played great in those games. But Cody Walker is a special talent. Like everyone forgets that. Like he's a guy who's led the comp in try assist a bunch of times. Now ripping through Ruben Garrick, 512K. He was due to go back to center this week with Turbo going back to fullback, and they've gone. You know what? Actually, we have the best center in the comp in our reserves here. We're going to start Tommy Talau, 302K by the way in fantasy. So if anyone wants a guy who's a bit cheaper, you are guaranteed to get on the Instagram story if you send me a screenshot of Tommy Talau on your team, especially if he's captain. But
after lockout, you can't do it and reverse it.
And post him playing. I want to see the little green score for him as well. But Ruben Garrick staying on the wing, you can make a case for holding Garrick. And the case for holding Garrick is you think Turbo is going to be red hot. You love the fixtures because they do have a soft run home after this Raiders game. And you think Garrick's going to score 1.5 tries a game. That's the only case you can make here. The other case would be, sorry, not the only one, because the other one is that he goes back to center somehow, right? Other than that, on the wing, his scoring production, like he needs a double to score well in fantasy on the wing. So he's one you can sell, but if you're low on trades, you just can't afford to sell a green dot, right?
Yeah, I think if you have 3 or less trades, you can't. You just have to ride it out because you just take his 30s. And hope for a couple of 50s here and there.
Very generous.
Yeah, 30s. Generous. Yeah. But I think
look, last got halfway to 30 last week.
Yeah, but last week was a tough one for these Seals. I think if you're starting Garrick even at wing, you're expecting a 30, 35. So I think you have more than 3 trades, you can let go of him. Like if you've got 4 or 5, then maybe it's worth it. But I think if you've got 3 or less, like it's definitely not worth trading him. Like it's just you're going to have a more pressing. Like for example, like last week, if you thought, trade Garrick. You could do it, but then a guy like Farnworth gets hurt. Like you'd much rather trade like a Herbie out, right? So, whereas at least Garrick's still playing. Like who knows who'll be this week? Like inevitably players get injured at this point of the reading.
No one.
Yeah, I hope so. But inevitably, either it's like either injury, suspension, like a rest, or like a change of role. Like you never know, and someone could be a much bigger pressing need. And when you've got 3 trades left, you've got to be conservative. So, I'm for holding Garrick if you're low on trades.
Yeah, he could fluke it up 100%. He nearly scored that try at the start of the game as well. So he had that, was it Collar? Collar threw him that pass. It was marginal. It was probably forward. It was a fair call, but man, it was close. So he nearly had a try in that game to start it off, and it was nearly a very different day for Ruben Garrick. Your trades this week, though, Biz, what are you thinking at this stage?
I mean, I'm just going to be trading Herbie to the best scorer for the rest of the year, and I'm going to try and figure out who it is. Is there any guys who can average 60 plus that I don't have? Is it Munster? Is it Katoa? Is it someone else? I don't know. I'll have to think about that because trading Herbie just means you can get whatever player you want. And who's giving me the biggest scores for the run home? And again, spoke about it, like the ownership matters. Like if I get a guy like Katoa, the problem is he might be getting me 60s, but he's giving everyone 60. So I'm going to have to try and find someone who I think can outdo that over the next 5 weeks. So that's my thoughts. I haven't come up with who I'm trading it, but just Herbie out for me. That's the only trade.
You heard it here first, everyone. Biz is getting Cam Munster. And for me, it's a pretty basic one. I'm moving up the ranks every week, so I'm just going to go Herbie to Firma, most likely. Most likely.
I like that.
That leaves me with 250K in the bank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run Turbo as an 18th man loophole. If Turbo goes well, no more trades. If Turbo goes terribly, because he does have a sub 10 score in him at fullback, especially this year. If he goes terribly, I can move Latu Fainu to someone under 614K. That then just opens up a conversation about who. Part of me, I don't think it works with Gagai. I think the fixtures just don't work to get the double center. But part of me wants to go Jack Williams. And I'd love to hear, what I want to hear is he's playing next to Moses. I want to hear there's a late swap and he's playing next to Moses because he's been pumping out like 50 a game without attacking stats. He's got that dual position. He's very durable, never really gets hurt.
I don't really know why they're not playing him next to Moses. The games he played there when Moses was there, he looked like the best edge in the game. Like he was busting tackles, scoring tries.
Guymer's attacking ability, though. You know, you gotta leave space for Guymer's 34 meters a game and 12 missed tackles.
So ridiculous. I don't understand it one bit. Anyway,
the fact that Guymer's scoring all these tries too, like they could be Jack Williams tries. Plus, he would actually run the ball.
Yeah, and it wouldn't look like such a battle to get the ball down.
If I saw that, I'd buy Jack Williams in a heartbeat. But if anyone's got a suggestion, under 614K, that's what I need to do. It's messy. If I go to Gagai instead of Firma, I can do some other stuff as well. So I don't know. I'm tossing up a few things here. Look, Gagai is interesting too. The goal kicking. If I think this 56 can stay, that's about what I have for Firma as well. So
it's a tricky one. You're going to have to let us know what you do. There's a lot of options. That's what, I mean, like this point of year, you got some options, right? So maybe go Zach Lomax. I don't know.
Mad Dog Lomax. Anyway, Biz, cheers for jumping on, bro. We thought we were going to go fast. We didn't go fast at all.
I don't know how we still have 1 hour shows when no one even has trades. So it's like, what's the point?
We rock up planning to be like, oh yeah, this will be half an hour. This will be quick, guys. And then we just 100%. Go. Hey, look, everyone's still here. So,
Yeah, everyone, thank you for listening to us ramble. It's still crazy to me that people spend time listening to us talk footy. Such a ridiculous thing to think about.
This round in particular, especially, round 27 show is going to be good, though. That's going to be a fun one.
If you're still listening here, comment Talau, graduate of the Casual Athlete Academy.
Talau, graduate.
Just comment Talau. No context, no notes. Talau.
All right, guys, comment Talau if you're still here. Cheers for jumping on, Biz. Thank you, mate. Good luck this week. Rip in.
You too. See you next week, man.
Let's go.